So for our management lecture notes, I've chosen to use the Word document that you all have to print out. In order to manage our horses, our goal must be to maintain a healthy, happy horse. And there are 7 different things that we need to do in order to maintain that happy, healthy horse. We need to have knowledge of high quality feed and pasture and make sure that we are feeding our horses high quality feed and pasture, as low quality will not give them the nutrients that they need to be healthy. We need to have knowledge of body condition score and how to adjust or maintain their weight based on that body condition score. An overweight horse is just as unhealthy as an underweight horse. We need to have knowledge of horsekeeping practices, from stall management to pasture management to a combination of that or maybe a paddock. We need to have knowledge of dental care. Dental care is very, very important in horses, more so now than ever, especially with our horses living longer. We need to vaccinate our horses for certain diseases, depending on what you do. We need to deworm them to make sure that they're not full of worms at any given time. And hoof care is very important, as I'm sure you've all heard the old adage, no hoof, no horse. So I guess we have our vaccination program first. And so the definition of a vaccination program is a protocol in which you determine which diseases may have the most effect on your horse and provide an immune boost or vaccine to the horse, thus decreasing the severity. Okay, so a vaccine does 3 very important things. The first one is it gives your immune system a boost. The second is that it can decrease the severity of a disease if it is contracted, and it can prevent the disease from ever being contracted. Very key things you need to know: boost the immune system, decrease the severity of the disease if contracted. For instance, any horse can still contract West Nile or strangles or flu, but maybe the severity of the symptoms are decreased, or it could prevent your horse from ever contracting the disease in the first place. So our full vaccination protocol, we vaccinate at 6 months, 7 months, and 12 months, then yearly after that. If you have a new horse that you know nothing about their vaccination records or anything, this is what you need to do. You need to vaccinate when you get the horse, vaccinate them again 4 weeks later with the exact same things, and then yearly thereafter. The reason for this is because you don't know when they've been vaccinated before. They may have been vaccinated a month ago, but you don't know, and you really shouldn't take that risk with bringing a new horse into your herd. Having said that, it is not going to hurt your horse in any way to vaccinate them again once you buy them if you do not know their vaccination records. And the other thing is that when you are vaccinating a new horse, and during the 4 weeks until they get that second booster, they should be quarantined from your other horses to reduce risk of contaminating your other horses with a disease. Alright, so our bare minimum or core vaccinations, these are very, very important. These are considered bare minimum because you cannot control the vectors that transmit these diseases. Let me say that again. You cannot control the vectors that transmit these diseases. Test question, guys. So all 4 of these diseases are carried by vectors that there no way we can control in our lives. Rabies are carried by skunks, raccoons, coyotes, dogs, anything that could possibly bite your horse. They could contract rabies. Rabies is a very cheap shot, usually around $10 at the vet, or you can buy it sometimes at a feed store for about 6 or 7. And most often you have to get it from a vet, and even still it's only about $10. It's very, very reasonable. West Nile virus, carried by mosquitoes. How the hell do you control any mosquito population? Unless you have a way to absolutely eradicate all of them, you cannot. So you need to vaccinate your horse anytime you are near anywhere a mosquito is, which is basically everywhere. Sleeping sickness, again, carried by mosquitoes. Same thing as West Nile. You need to vaccinate because mosquitoes can be found everywhere. Tetanus. Tetanus is found in the ground. It is found on metal. It is found on wood. Anything your horse cuts himself on, and let's face it, horses are big, beautiful animals, but they're very stupid and fragile. And anytime they cut themselves, So any horse can cut themselves and tetanus will kill them. Tetanus is also called lockjaw, as it will make your horse's muscles contract and stay that way, and so they won't be able to move their jaw. Humans also can contract tetanus. This is very important. Rabies, West Nile, and tetanus all affect humans as well. So not only do you want to vaccinate your horses because it's good for them, but you can contract it as well. Okay, so other common vaccinations that we can come across: influenza, rhino, I don't have strangles on here, Potomac horse fever, all sorts of things, but the most common for other vaccinations, and these also come in the 7-way, 5-way, or whatever it is that you choose to purchase. So they're influenza and rhino. Influenza is for horses that are coming into contact with other horses at water tanks, in stalls, buckets, brushes, any of that kind of stuff. Influenza can be given to your horse that way. And rhino is the same way, only it's through bodily fluids as well. So it's just a good idea if you are competing with your horses to give influenza, rhino, and depending on how often and where you go, strangles as well. Strangles vaccine, there's kind of a caveat to that. If you vaccinate your horse with the strangles vaccine, it can sometimes give them strangles, which is not fun at all. And if they don't get the strangles from the vaccine, it most often will not make your horse immune to strangles, but it is going to decrease the severity of the symptoms. That is one of the good things about the strangles vaccination. Alright, so on to deworming. The key to a successful deworming program is inconsistency or daily deworming. Here in Wyoming, we can adjust our program as there is no need to deworm during the extreme cold. The egg larvae just don't live in the extreme cold, which is a good thing. Alright, so how do we find out if our horse is a low shedder, moderate shedder, or a heavy shedder? Well, I'll tell you. You take a fecal ball into your veterinarian, a new one, a moist one, and you give that to them, and they will do what's called a fecal egg count. This is very important, generally pretty cheap, anywhere from $10 to $15, and it is good to do once or twice a year for each horse. This will tell you how many eggs are in their feces, and that will tell you whether they're low, medium, or heavy shedder. The 0 to 250 under the low shedder is eggs per gram, 0 to 250. Moderate, 250 to 500 eggs per gram. Heavy is over 500 eggs per gram. Now this is 1 gram of feces, and then they have to go through with a microscope and they have to count however many eggs that they find. So if your horse comes out with a low shedder count from your veterinarian, then it is okay to deworm your horse twice a year, spring and fall. Why spring and fall? Spring, when the ground is thawing out, your horse is pooping out all those worm eggs and whatnot, he's going to reinfest himself. Fall, right after the first freeze, first really good freeze. That way, when he poops them all out and it freezes them, it's going to kill them. Your moderate shedder, you need to deworm 4 times a year. March or April, May or June, September or October, December or January. These are just obviously suggestions. They're not set in stone, but it is a good idea to do them around this time. Now, what I have here also with these programs are different dewormers that you can use, and I will get to that. Your heavy shedder, 6 times a year, about every other month. These horses are infested all the time, and they definitely need to be dewormed a lot. Not saying that eventually they won't be that low shedder, which they can be, which is why it would be a good idea to get your horse's fecal egg count done once or twice a year. Okay, so we have different dewormers on here that you can see. Why do we want to rotate these dewormers? Well, there is a concern about worms becoming resistant to your dewormer. You'll read about this in your equine science book. And when it means resistant, it means that the drug is no longer effective in killing the parasites. And so you are just feeding your horse all of this money and not getting any effect from it. So ivermectin is obviously one of the cheaper, more common classes of dewormers, and it has many different names. You have Zymetron, Ivercare, any of those types of things. The praziquantel in it will kill the tapeworms, so the ivermectin plus a praziquantel is generally your Exodus or your Zymetron Gold. Moxidectin is the Quest, and again the praziquantel kills the tapeworms, and I'm looking here at the low shedder for those two classes, so that would be your Quest Plus. Fenbendazole or oxybendazole or pyrantel pamoate, those are also different classes or different drugs in your dewormers. These can be Safeguard, let's see, and we have Panicure, Anthalcide, Rotectin. Any of those other types of dewormers will work as well to rotate with. Alright, they also have daily deworming programs. We can have Stringid C, Stringid C2X, Continuex, or EquiAid. All of those, you just put the 1 or 2 ounces in their feed daily and it will deworm your horse.